New Venture Lab. This is the assignment walkthrough for assignment number 10, feedback mechanism. So we just did assignment number 9 where you did your interview questions for an in-person interview. Particularly if you are if you're doing a business to business type venture where it is that you're selling a product, service, or software to another business. In-person interviews is the most applicable for sure. If it is that you are selling direct to consumer, you might be doing more like a feedback survey where it is that, imagine the problem with an in-person interview is that it takes time. So even like a 10-minute interview takes time, where in 10 minutes, potentially, I could have hundreds or thousands of people doing a feedback survey, which is like a Google form, something like this. Okay, so ultimately for this assignment, we're going to take the most important questions from our 10 questions that we did for the in-person interview, and we're going to put them into a Google form. Okay, this can be like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 questions. You want to do not a whole lot. The longer the form is, the less likely people will actually work all the way through it. So 3 or 4 questions is really like the ballpark you want to get into. So what are the most important questions? And also you want to be collecting their email. So the idea is that on one hand you have this, you have all this qualitative data, which is going to help to optimize what it is your actual venture is going to be. What is the solution that it is that you're providing? On the other hand, you're collecting this email list. Okay, you're growing this email list so that on day 1 you have potentially hundreds or thousands of customers to start with. Okay. So whether you're B2B or B2C, so business to business or business to consumer, we want to do this, okay? Again, when you go out into the world and you do it like in the future weeks where we actually go and do some of these interviews, if you are B2B, you might do the feedback survey as well. If you are B2C, you might do in-person interviews as well. It kind of depends on, the nature of startups is that they're unique, right? It also it depends on who your target customer is as well. I'll give you an example of a feedback survey. So when I was in the grad program at FGCU, one of the services I worked on was like this. I would go to students on campus and I would say this. Okay, hi, I'm a grad student hi, my name is Justin. I'm a grad student at here, and I'm working on bringing a service to FGCU that it is like Uber, but with golf carts and just for students. Okay, so you can start to see what the idea is, and I would be like, okay, and if you wouldn't mind, just if this sounds like something that would be interesting to you, if you might be interested in actually participating in the service, please go ahead and scan this quick QR code and complete our feedback survey. Okay, I approached probably close to 500 people in the course of 2 days doing this. So just back to back to back to back. I know that because of how many scans that it is that I got on the QR code. And then 300 actually, around 300 actually completed the survey. So all of which said that they'd be willing to use the service and that they would pay X amount of dollars for a trip from like Northlake to the shops at University Village or from UV to like an academic building. Okay, so the idea there was that we actually had an estimate for how much people would be willing to pay, but then we had all these emails, hundreds of emails. So we had about 300 emails for people who would be interested in knowing when the service becomes available. And so they would be potentially our first customers. And then also we had a workforce, about 35-ish emails of people who signed up saying that they would be willing to actually drive for the service. So you see how it can be collecting this qualitative data and then also collecting this early mailing list, okay? The number one reason a startup fails is not enough customers. Entrepreneurs are passionate, creative, artistic, all these wonderful things. They want to dot every I, cross every T, make their art, make their product perfect before they show it to real people. Finally, they show it to real people. They open up shop and no one comes. Why did no one come? Unintentionally ignoring real people from the very beginning. So we very much, even if you consider yourself to be in the idea stage right now, you want to definitely be getting some feedback from some real people. On one hand, feedback from real people, and on the other hand, that growing that early mailing list. Okay, so that's what this is all about. So you want to take your 10 interview questions and you want to condense it down to the most important ones. Does the problem exist? Does the problem exist / does this person experience the problem? Would they be willing to pay for it? If so, ballpark, how much would they be willing to pay? And collect their email. So be collecting their email. You probably will add 1 or 2 more questions than just that. The idea there being is whatever it is that is most particular, most important to your business, to what it is that you're going to be offering, okay? And as always, reach out if you have any questions whatsoever. If you haven't used Google Forms before, there's 2 links. There's a link here to it and a link here to it. And then ultimately, in the next assignment, we'll be working a little bit more with where we put our Google form. Okay. But keep in mind the idea of this, okay? A nice QR code that will send people to essentially to my feedback form. So as always, again, reach out if you have any questions, and this should be pretty simple. Okay. All right. Have a good week.